Mr. Minnick, helping students learn to code. Today, we're going to review the 5 steps of the programming process. Step 1, you should always understand what it is you're trying to do. Well, in this case, we're drawing ASCII art to decorate a high school classroom. Step 2 of the programming process is to plan out what it is that you're going to code. So here you go. Here is a rough draft of my design. My design is going to have this as the user interface, the letters HE. That's the HE from Hello World, but in this slimmed down video, I'm just going to do the HE part of Hello World. Notice how I spelled the letter H using lowercase h's, and I spelled a large uppercase E with lowercase e's. Okay, so I've done that design here courtesy of this free website, printgraphpaper.com. You could have done this on paper with traditional graph paper, and I did not. I used this online one. The third step of the programming process is to type code where you expect the program to then execute or run. Somebody did this for Instagram. Somebody did this for Facebook. Somebody did this for practically anything digital that you've ever used on a cell phone, a computer, or even an Alexa or Siri type voice controlled thing. So here's this website that I like to use called Replit, R-E-P-L.it. It allowed me to start up a Python project. Python's the computer language, of course. And over here, the design, the plan rather, I'm going to write code that makes it happen when I click this run button. Well, I like to always put my name at the top in what's called a comment statement. So anything in Python starting with a hashtag, anything to the right of that, like Eagles lost, but they didn't lose. But even if it's a lie, you can actually type it into a comment. That wouldn't make sense to say that Eagles lost. So you can type anything into a comment, and then when you run the program, nothing happens because it's just there for humans. So the first meaningful line of code of this project, of this program, should be the first row of ASCII art letters or symbols from my design. So where I'm waving my mouse, that first row needs to come alive with Python code. Well, we've already learned in this particular class, there's a print command. In Python, there's a print command where you can type stuff. But in this case, I want to type an H followed by a single space, and then another H, a single space, and then 3 E's. H space E, E, E. When you type one line of code that has the necessary parentheses and double quotes, you should run the program to test it incrementally, step by step as you go. Unless you're under extreme time pressure, or you're not allowed to press that run button more than once, I recommend that you press that run button as many times as it takes to test your code as you go. So I'm now happy that the first horizontal section of this plan over here does match up with the plan. Now you hit the enter key on the keyboard and you type another command with more stuff there. But in this case, I just strategically look at the letters over here and match them up with what was above, and I need another HH, but it looks like I only have one E. Now, if you want to be that person that puts trailing spaces there, that's fine. When you run this, the trailing spaces we don't see. Like where I'm waving my mouse right now, since the human doesn't see that, you really did not need to pad it with spaces. When I run it, it still looks the same. In this situation, it doesn't matter whether you have those trailing spaces there or not. There might be situations down the road where it matters, but this is not one of them. Now, some people, they like to copy and paste so that they don't have to type print so many times or whatever. So I'm going to right click and do a copy with this selected with my mouse. Or you could triple click really fast, triple click, and that highlights one line of code in some software. Some software, when you double click, it highlights the word that you're in. But if you triple click, it highlights the whole row, the whole sentence. So I'm triple clicking, and now I'm going to hold down on my Mac computer Command C. On a Windows computer, I think it's CTRL Control C. Anyway, you could go here to copy, but you could also Command C, which I just did. And now I'm going to click here and hit the Enter key on the keyboard. And now I'm going to do a Command B to paste. At this website, there is no paste, interestingly. So I hold down Command B as in victory, and I modify this stuff here in the double quotes to match what I wanted in my design here. So even if you don't like computer science, even if you don't like coding, there's a time and a place to know how to control the computer. Wouldn't it be nice for computers to be your friend and just do your chores for you? So create your own robot that has software controlling it. Even if you don't like, computers or robotics, you can still, in this era, 21st century, you can still make things solve your problems. Okay, so here goes. I'm going to test it incrementally as I go, like I've been preaching here. So far, so good. There's the top half of the word he. It looks like I have 2 more lines of output. This time I'm going to copy and paste a whole chunk and do copy and then hit paste. Now this is where you got to stay organized. You got to know where you were. Oh, look, the second line of this is the same as the fourth line. So really I'm going to delete that line that was extra from the copy paste. And now that is the kind of the bottom 4/5 section of the he. Oh, look, the word he is so symmetrical. The top is the same as the bottom. Now you could either just delete that H and put a space in place of it, or you could copy and paste that. So learn efficiency. Everybody's different in how they use copy paste, whether they like to type, whether they like check their phone messages as they do homework like that. My recommendation is to not be distracted and all that. So here goes, I'm going to run it. And now it does work. Now don't worry about this Linux gobbledygook that's up here. That's just there, I know, for grading purposes. If you need to turn this in, and the way I teach currently in 2019 at least, on a Mac computer, like students are lucky enough to be using in my classroom, Command-Shift-4 lets you get this little crosshair, and you can click and snapshot just the portion that you want to hand in to the teacher as proof that you got it looking good here in this black window. You could also, but not for me, because this year I haven't not been requiring people to do that, you could take a snapshot of your code. Maybe your grandparent, mom, father, pet wants to see your code. Maybe they want to see both match up. This would look good. Maybe when getting scholarships for college, you could show the code that matches up with the output. You could even get the design, if you stagger your windows like I did, you could get the design there and the code and the output of the code all in one strategic snapshot for your portfolio. Okay, more about that and how you would turn in those graphics. But now let me make some intentional mistakes. Beginners sometimes arbitrarily, because they're not careful or they just don't know any better, they sometimes get extra spaces in front of one of these P's. Guess what? It ain't going to work. When you run this, Python is very unhappy when your indentation isn't perfect. So you might fix that problem because you remembered, oh yeah, Mr. Minnick said something about indentation. So you line everything up together, and it still doesn't work because they all were indented. So I tediously but necessarily get rid of those spaces. And then in my act of hurry, I type a capital P in there. Now, duh, you should have realized that that print is black and not the keyword blue, which means something, but you test it anyway, and it still doesn't work. But it does work down to the point where the error occurred. Python's nice like that. Some languages like Java, nothing works. If one person isn't rowing in the boat, the whole boat stops and sinks. So in Java, but not in Python, it usually runs down to the point where it couldn't run any further. So it needs to be lowercase p. Another mistake people make is they forget a double quote symbol, like right there, that double quote that matched up with that double quote. Of course, it's going to make an error there. And some people using an iPad, they have what's called smart capitalization punctuation. That would mean that one of these are angled and not straight up and down. Another problem would be that I typically see early in the school year like this is somebody forgets a parenthesis and they run it, and of course it doesn't work. And this is called debugging, and this is the 4th step of the programming process. To debug your code. Some people are perfect, they don't have to debug their code, but I don't know if those people still exist on planet Earth anymore, those perfect people. So this is, for some people, this is fun debugging. Some people, it's just an evil necessity to get to the point of going on further. Okay, that's all the typical errors there in your typical like ASCII art project, other than logical errors where you perhaps type capital H's where you really designed lowercase h's. It still runs, of course, but the output has, you know, the wrong look and it doesn't match the design. I reserve the right as a teacher or as a potential boss to take off points if your output doesn't match the original design to some degree of accuracy as desired. Okay, changing that back to lowercase h's. The last step of the programming process after debugging and running it to make sure it's working right is to add documentation. Documentation is also known as comments, like your name. Now I have fussy rules that I'm not going to go over right now, but things like your class period. At this school we have it's called period 8-9. At some schools they just have period 8, then they have period 9. We have 8-9. Anyway, you would put your period there, and there's other stuff I forget what you're supposed to put, but you should always have a blank line there to separate your comments at the top from your actual code. Now, sometimes people put comments over here to the right, like they say that's the middle part of the letter. This is tab, the top part. I would say this is over documentation. It's like the little boy who cried wolf. It's like a little too much. Usually I don't care about, I'd rather you go too much rather than too little, but that's called documentation. This does not print out, of course, because the word middle is to the right of the hashtag. So it's only there for coders, humans, to see, and it explains what this is happening. Some people, they put their name at the bottom, like the author name. So it's at C. Minnick, you know, find me on Instagram at C. Minnick. Not really, you're students, so you shouldn't be going there. I think I don't use it much, but I might have like an at Mr. Minnick account. I don't really post anything there anymore. Don't have time to look at Instagram, to be honest with you. So let's just say by Mr. Minnick. But I put a blank line there. The blank line's not going to appear. See, proof. So blank lines here do not match up with blank lines in your output. So to get a blank line over here, you can do this. Print, and then double quotes inside of parentheses. So basically you're printing nothingness. And that puts the gap so that by Mr. Minnick is down below hello. In fact, I don't like this server stuff, so I'm going to just do this. I'm going to make a nice little like header, print, and this just spaces me down the page a little bit, and I'm going to explain why I did that. This section, to create white space. I'm explaining why these are just naturally there to create white space, you know, around. So blank lines in your code are nice for readability, but they don't transfer over here unless you have empty double quotes. And by the way, these comments, if you do put hashtag comments in like this, I like them to line up vertically. and have like a little white space. So maybe you want to tab them over a little bit more and keep them lined up vertically. Now this is looking good. This is looking so good. I'm going to run it one last time. And now I'm going to copy and paste the web page address here at Replit. Or you could go to the share link that they provide for you right here. You can get this link right here, copy and paste it. I'm now going to pretend that I'm submitting it to a discussion board where my other friends can see it if the teacher allowed for that. So in this case, I am allowing my period 1 class, or anybody who watches this video this school year at least, to paste their current rough draft. I know this is a rough draft. This isn't your finished version. I'm putting it in here into this Schoology discussion post. And maybe you want to say something more than that, but right now I'm not taking time. You could always do the link thing here. Schoology works in different ways. Mr. Minnick's rough draft for period 1. 8-9 I meant to say, period 8-9. So there's multiple ways to do this. When I post that, now anybody else that's in my Schoology section, oh, that was period 1. I meant to do a period 8-9. So annoying. So I put that in there, and I put the link in there, and I'll say Mr. Minnick's rough draft. And I know I'm still in video. I'm making it short. Now I have to go back and delete that because period 1 has no clue why I just randomly Schoology bombed them. And I can't figure out how to delete my post. Oh, there it is. Anyway, I'll do this offline. I know I'm okay. Oh, don't make this a like battle. So don't be upvoting and liking each other just out of popularity. I don't like that. I wish I could take the like button off of that because likes don't matter. It's quality matters. And that's that. So now back to my sign off here. I would beatbox to sign off, but I didn't bring my beatbox voice. So closing music. Da 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 da.